network radio and television station. We are broadcasting from the United States, Pennsylvania to be specific. Today we want to look at an aspect of Anthony Samuel Kofi Wood's recent address at the Unjust Convention. Anthony Kofi Wood spoke on a variety of issues. Numerous issues were discussed or were talked about in his keynote address at the convention. The convention has ended and it's over, and individual media institutions are definitely to their respective homes or places to work. And there are messages coming from that convention, and this is where we want to take our time to see and place emphasis on some of those things that have been discussed. Okay, and so today we want to look at the aspect that has to do with the media. I think this is a cross because he spoke directly to media practitioners in at the convention. So those things that he said, we want to emphasize some of them, and to also caution media institutions and to tell media institutions that they need to look at some of the things that were said at the convention. So this is the main purpose for this short video, and we hope those of you media practitioners that will be listening to this broadcast, that you take heed and be able to do what is most important so that Liberia can be better. If Liberia is to be better, the media will have to play a very significant role. What are some of the issues that Samuel Kofi Wood spoke about? Or let's listen to him, and maybe whenever we can make our own analysis. I think that's the best way to go, right? So let's listen to Samuel Kofi Wood. Samuel Kofi Wood is a practicing lawyer. He's resident in Liberia. He was invited to the States to address an Unjust Convention. So let's listen to see or to hear some of the things he said.
That the struggle for democracy involving the media is an unending fight that will continue to be shaped by the changing political, economic, social, and cultural landscape. How can the media sustain democracy now and in the future? It is said that democracy is meaningless without an active, independent, transparent, and free press. There must be structural and functional authority.
That's a key point. Without an independent media, the media existence is meaningless. That's a key point, and I can't miss this. If I was even taking note for writing a press release or writing a story, this is a cardinal point that no media practitioner will have listened to and will miss that, right? So the media, without an independent media, it is meaningless to have a media institution. In today's Liberia, there are proliferation of media institutions or people who profess to be practicing journalism or doing best of communication. But communication is not just what we see around us. It's a course. Is a course that is taught at the level of universities. So if you did not go through the wall of a university and you have phone and you are involved in messaging, it doesn't mean then that you are a media practitioner. So without a vibrant media, it is meaningless to have a media institution. That goes to say, without looking at media institutions in Liberia where practitioners have learned the subject matter. When I say subject matter, I'm not talking about subject verb. I'm talking about those cardinal issues that make up a course. At the University of Liberia, there is a Department of Mass Communication. And besides the department itself, to in fact enter the university, there are several things you have to learn. You have to go through all of the English courses, English 101, 102, and what is that? 201, 202, and an advanced English courses that are also taught at 400 levels. So you must have learned a lot. So to get up in the morning and pick up your phone and get on social media and you having quote unquote talk shows or having other stuff is not what is expected in Liberia. But people, the media landscape or the global community, there's so much that people are now involved in. So those of you who are schooled in mass communication or journalism, you have to champion the discussion. You have to tailor the discussion. You have to do the best you can to send a signal to those persons who just hold phones and want to get on social media and want to be discussing the issues. All right. So Kofi is saying what? Without an independent media, there's no need to have a media institution. I mean, to have a media institution is meaningless. But let's listen to him furthermore and see some of the things he said before we can continue with our analysis.
That the struggle for democracy involving the media is an unending fight that will continue to be shaped by the changing political, economic, social, and cultural landscape. How can the media sustain democracy now and in the future? It is said that democracy is meaningless without an active, independent, transparent, and free press. There must be structural and functional approach. At the structural level, self-assessment and self-regulation, building capacity and independence become critical. Of significant and importance will be the media, particularly Aja and Pool, the President of Liberia, must establish a common fund for the Liberian media for investment, training, access to production, distribution of information, and legal defense. It is time that the press, the media, begin to think more broadly about seeing the possibility of investing and building a media enterprise in Liberia. The second is the functional approach. The media must engage in the unfettered and objective delivery of information and truth to the public without fear and favor. The media must create a platform for open debate to prevent the control of information and audience by the state. Most importantly, the media must avoid rent-seeking and largesse from the state and private actors that undermine the objective delivery of information to the public. The media in 2023 election. The 2023 general election, in my view, will be one of the most consequential in Liberia since the end of the Civil War for several reasons. First, it will determine whether the post-war democratic experiment is resilient enough, and second, whether state institutions, including the National Election Commission of Liberia and the judiciary, have the capacity, especially given unresolved issues of the 2017 elections and the recent spike in tension and electoral violence, to deliver a result that will represent the true will of the people of Liberia. The role of the media in this respect must be to create the appropriate infrastructure to put in place these infrastructures and adequately prepare to report on the whole range of the electoral process. This will include networking with local and foreign institutions to ensure unrestricted media access and coverage. The media must ensure transparency through its watchdog role as a fourth estate. A media that is self-sufficient and independent will be reticent in reporting stories that will not be swayed by the lure of pecuniary benefits to report otherwise. The media must serve as a platform where all candidates will be held equally. The media must promote adherence to the code of conduct for public officials. This will offer candidates the possibility of a fair, free, and competitive environment. My dear friends, the media must also work with civil society, provide opportunity for better inclusion of the marginalized in our society, especially the physically challenged and the full participation of women in leadership. Over and over, my dear friends, your obligation as a media is to represent and offer to the society the truth and nothing but the truth. Good decision making depends on people having reliable, accurate information. Sustaining democracy, therefore, is not an option. It is an unambiguous position you have taken in the fight to promote and protect the ideals of human rights, democracy, and justice. The media must therefore take the side of the people. I therefore urge the media must take a position. The media must not pretend to be neutral. Both the Press Union of Liberia and IJA must work together and develop a collective strategy. You must both decide whose interest you want to advance. There are some unadulterated truths about our dear country, and the media must not shy away from these truths. And I refer to these truths in several ways. First, the media needs support to become an effective watchdog. We must collaborate and build constituency for reform. In the 1990s, the Press Union of Liberia and the Catholic Justice and Peace Commission, then under my leadership, signed an MOU which offered free legal services to journalists. We need to revisit these pioneering efforts. IJA and PUL must develop a more functional relationship that allow us to pursue these initiatives collectively. The media is underfunded and undercapitalized, and there must be collective effort to ensure that IJA.
Okay, so we have heard a lot, and I just want to emphasize some of the points that I got from the address from Anthony Samuel Kofi Woods, and he was very blunt, and he was to the point. And I think if the media can take some of the pieces of advice that came from him, and we can have a vibrant media institutions in Liberia. What are some of the things that we got from him that we can place emphasis on? Samuel Kofi Woods is calling for a media enterprise in Liberia. That's something that I think is important, and those of you who are serious and want to help Liberia, there's nothing wrong with fewer or group of persons who believe they have ideas and are schooled to organize a corporate body, a corporate institution, to have an enterprise in Liberia where you can have this big media institution put their resources together, get a printing press, build radio stations, establish and ensure one of the biggest newspapers in the country, or be able to, get into other media activities that can be of help to not just people that you employ, but for the good of the entire country. So the media enterprise, Kofi Woods' call for a media enterprise is something that most of you media practitioners should look into. Not only that, you can find other international partners. You can partner with people outside of Liberia, and you can have a very big media enterprise that can comprise of, some people who may have shares, like Who knows? Anybody from the United States could be a shareholder in an enterprise in Liberia if it is well structured. I mean, you go through all of the corporate discussions, get lawyers involved. You can have a very big enterprise that people can buy shares. People who are not even media practitioners can buy shares and can look up to, upholding, their shares, and whatever dividend come out of whatever that is done. I mean, annual basis or based on the year-to-year operation of that enterprise, a lot can be done. That's one thing that I think, and I think media practitioners should look in the direction to see the probability of establishing a media enterprise. That's one recommendation I think the media should take into consideration. Another one we got from Samuel Kofi Wood is that he called on the media to be involved in truth telling, speaking truth. And I think this is one point that is a cost of media practice. If you can speak truth, that means there's no need for you to call yourself a journalist. And when we say speaking truth, it's not because somebody is somebody you don't like, and there's a news story about that person, and that's the only time you want to write a story. No, that's not media. That's not journalism. Journalism is where when you go cover a story and you see the story, tell the story as it is. No matter who is hurt in the process, and this is the cost of communication. All right, get on the field, you see the story, you hear why it is. Just make sure you report the facts. You cannot be involved in lying on people or getting at people because of why. He spoke about pecuniary gains. People want to write stories because somebody interested in it and somebody going to get a few dollars. And because of that, people don't get involved in speaking whole truth. And sometimes people decide not to even write a story because of, maybe somebody else promised them a few dollars. Maybe a story that involves life or the story that involves death of somebody. And somebody may not just want to say, well, I better take the money that is being given to me rather than writing the story. So because of that, people are not deeply involved in investigative journalism. Because people say people who do investigative journalism, sometimes they get, in the words of some people, those kind of persons may die poor. But there's nobody going to live in this world anyway, so nobody should be afraid of that. So if you have a calling, you have a piece of job to do it at most as you can. That's a cost of truth telling. Another issue we got is that he emphasized the importance of the 2023 elections. The 2023 election, nobody underestimated the 2023 election. So the result is not dependent on the politician. The result of the 2023 election is, if it will go well, it depends on the consciousness of the people. And to get the people conscientized, it is incumbent on every media institution to go after the issues that make the news, the issues that will conscientize the people. If you can do that, I don't know, then anything goes wrong with Liberia or the election, you can't say it's politician. It's also you yourself. Because this coming election 2023, people are going to waste money around. All right, some people are going to sell their character. Some people are going to sell, their profession, as even people are doing right now. Some people want to be politicians, they want to be journalists at the same time. Those two things can work together. You're either a journalist or a politician. So you want to be a politician, be a politician. Nothing stop you from doing that. But you can be a politician and be a journalist. Now we have seen a lot of things, especially social media, and some persons are, between the seasons. You can't speak the whole truth, and you want to be a journalist. It's not possible. More so, he calls for the Press Union of Liberia and AJA, to work together, to establish a common fund. I mean, put resources together and make some decision, hardcore decision. And the emphasis I will give to that is that when AJA and the Press Union of Liberia independently, work together to better Liberia, they can have a better force that the government can reckon with. It's not about going, negatively against people, but it's about looking at the media landscape in the country. Like, for example, who is a journalist in Liberia? Who is a media practitioner in Liberia? So if you have all the proliferations of people picking up phones and want to get involved in the practice of media, how can that be controlled? You cannot do that when you don't have open discussions with, major media managers. But as you continue to have these kind of open discussions, you're going to have way out. There are people who will just share some common thought. It could make a lot of sense. It could be the brain of establishing a better union between the press union and that of AJAD. So we just want to tell AJAD and those of you who are in leadership to look at these issues very seriously and make some decisions that can be of help to the country. All right. So that's one issue. AJAD and the Press Union of Liberia, how we can cooperate and make sure that they organize common forms. It's like maybe you can have. The hardest thing is to agree. Structure an agreement. The press union, you must have a joint agreement because the two of you are separate regarding your own establishment, your own existence, and your own locality. So you can enter into a common agreement. When you enter a common agreement, then the terms and conditions of those agreements will make you to do more of a corporate issues. A lot of things can be looked at. You can look at the issues of how you can have lawyers, like he said, he is doing his time when he was at the JPC. He helped to allow the JPC to provide some free legal service for media institutions or media practitioners. So those things can be worked around, right? There are lawyers who are willing to work with the media. So if you get a lot of things done, you can have a smooth ride for media practitioners not to be afraid to write the truth. Because even if you wrote the truth and nothing but the truth, and somebody decided to take it to court, you will have a group of lawyers that will just go and represent you. So that's another issue. So another emphasis he called for is that for the media to get involved in networking, not only with Liberians, but for those international partners or people from outside. And without him saying it, there's no media institution that should believe that if you don't network, you're going to do a best job. Besides being a media, everywhere, you must network with people. You must go beyond yourself. Networking is very important. So making reference to the national election or the upcoming election, this is where you have like AFES, you have other nations around Liberia that are going to be seriously involved or have interest in the election. But if you don't start the discussion about elections, you're not going to have all these people coming around that you can network with. So this is a calling, this is a point that media institutions should take into consideration to network with other institutions by transparency, unrestricted coverage. I don't think at this stage, and it also depends on media institutions. If the way you take yourself, that's how people are going to take you. So to be able to have unrestricted coverage the coming election, you must first of all show that you are transparent, you are credible, and that you can speak and write the truth. So don't take anything for granted. 2020 election, you can be there. Some people can be wounded. Some people can get media institution. Trust me. So now when election goes chaotic, media practitioner get caught in between. Especially so when you're not independent. People don't see you like an independent reporter or writer. That's what the problem can be. So you all have to take all of these kind of a discussion. And I hope that AJAD will have, besides the conference, you can have an open discussion, so that you can have a way forward. The conference is over. What did you get out of the conference? So is the conference over and everything is over? I don't think so. AJAD herself should be able to take, I'm sure they took note from this kind of deliberation. And I don't think Kofi Wu was just invited for the mere sake of coming talking after everything's over. So AJAD must get involved and take some of these points and be able to see, can we get certain things achieved? Yeah, but that you can have a lot done. All right. Another thing I got from him, he emphasized that the media must forgo pecuniary gains, and I think this is where this is a very difficult point for media practitioners, especially in the event where the media is underfunded. Those who are struggling to establish media institutions don't have the resources. So even those they hired, sometimes people go all out and doing, okay, I can't write this story because my life involved, I had to get a job, I had to feed my family and all of this stuff. But that's not what media is for. You either write as it is, struggle and get somewhere. But if it's okay, my family didn't eat yesterday, so this story here, somebody want to give me $200 and I don't have that money right now, so I'd rather take a $200 and let the story die. I don't think this thing going to help the country generally. So that's a critical issue too. Beginner games, those of you who go after peanuts, somebody steal $1 million, and because you want, maybe they will give you $500, $1 million, $500 million. Whose interest is it? That's another point he emphasized. The media will take side, but when you take side, which side do you go? Do you go on the side of opposition political party, or do you go on the side of government, or do you go on the side of the people, the suffering masses? So these are all critical points that I think the media will have to look between. Do I support the government, the CDC government, or do I support opposition political party? And that's what we see around. Even some of the chat, most of the chat rooms, people take side. People discussing like politicians, not discussing like a journalist. Even this is issues like this. For people to speak because they see themselves in the mirror, they don't want to discuss these things as it is. And you cannot be a media practitioner and be a politician. These two are separate. All right? So you must take side. That's what Kofi is recommending. Take side. But when you say take side, it doesn't mean that you must go, okay, like Joe, we have time, so we all will be part of it. You can't be in President of Liberia, you want to contest election, at the same time you think like, hey, you're doing good for the country. No, you're not doing good. You want to contest election, just resign your post, forget about the media, go join some of the political parties, and then you begin to champion. Maybe you can be a public relations officer, or you can be just, some secretary for any political party or whatever it's like. But you have to leave the mainstream of media practice if you want to be on the side of a political party. That's a cardinal issue too. Alright, we got from the speech. Okay, the code of conduct. No, so that's another point. I mean, this is not a strange thing for us. The code of conduct has been issued in the media for a very long time, but the media can make people to really get involved in respecting the code of conduct. But the media itself is not too transparent, is not honest, is not truth-telling. Who do you go talk to? So the government is doing your own thing, you're doing your own thing, and then the country is spoiled. At the end of the day, you want to blame politicians alone. No, it's not politicians. It's because you failed to do your job. You are the fourth pillar of democracy. So you constitute the fourth pillar of democracy. So that's a cardinal role, that the media has. And this is vital. You cannot underestimate your power of the pen or the power of the mic. But this can only be felt if you take side, meaning you are concerned about the well-being of the people, society. If you do that, then of course your might will be felt. Like even John Brown with $1 million, when you look at you, you say, wow, this other journalist, he's a powerful guy. I respect him. So those are some of the points that we took from Samuel Kofi Wood. And this is just a short video we thought to make. We will keep emphasizing some of the points. I listened to Kofi Wood, the full speech is loaded. It's loaded with a lot of information, a lot of things. You can talk about it for a long time. The issue of democracy is in there. The issue of the media is in there. Civil society is in. That's another point too, right? The media must work with civil society organization to get the best, in the upcoming election. So, hey guys, media persons, the president of Liberia, Aja, media managers, talking about managing editors. These messages are all for you guys. It's not for the public, it's for you. The public only going to be watching whether you will take note of some of these things and begin to implement them. That's how it is, and that's what we want to emphasize today. The media constitute the fourth pillar or the fourth estate of democracy. The media has a role to play, and that role is vital in generating democratic culture, that extends beyond, quote unquote, the political system, those who are in power. If you can just hang on to truth-telling, a transparent process, and hold people accountable, make sure people are accountable for what they do. Trust me, the media, in Liberia, the country will change. But if all the people are going in the melting pot and want to get your share, want to get something from there because your family have not eaten for 2 days and you want the money to go do what you want to do, at the end of the day, when you get sick as a media practitioner, because you did not emphasize enough for the medical facility in Liberia to be better off, when you get sick, you can get money. At that time, you don't get money. At that time, you even calling the person you think you are helping, they will not be there to help you. Then you feel the weight of your of your refusal to have spoken the truth or to have written the truth. So everything you do, it has its own backlash, or it has its own pay or its own result. So whatever you do, hey, make sure that you want to be a journalist, do the best you can. Society is watching you all. I told some friends, even your foreign partners around Liberia, they know who is who. They know who is an independent media practitioner. Then the US ambassador know everybody in that place. They pick up the people in the morning. They know exactly where truth telling is. It's not because it's not you telling them. So with all of these things, you just have to be very mindful of what you do. People are watching Liberia in a very different way. So don't say that and sell your profession to individuals who will not survive after fewer years. So the media, you will still remain after this government. Even the current government, when they leave power, the media are going to remain. The next government come in, the media are going to remain. There's nobody stopping anybody for progression. You come to the point where you feel you are schooled enough and you can take position in government, just leave the media, the mainstream, and jump into politics. But you can't be in the media and be in politics. You can't be in politics and be in media. There are people who are supposed to spread the message. That's how society works. They are the fourth estate. So you can be a member of the first estate, and you want to be in the fourth estate. It doesn't work that way. When it comes to some point where you're supposed to be speaking truth, you will not speak the truth, and then people look up to you and say, "Look at this other man." Then you spoil your own character because as a result of that, you can't be out of first, second, and third estates, and you want to be part of the fourth estate, or you can be in the fourth estate and you want to act like you are in the first, second, third estate. These things don't work together. All right. So these are the issues, and I thank you guys for watching. And we want to say this is how we come to close up on this short note. We just thought to bring this to your attention. Thanks so much for watching. It was a pleasant time. Take a break.